Good morning. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
As we've discussed earlier, time blocking. It's a good thing I scheduled extra time for me this morning.
Yeah, we were both kind of rushing around this morning.
Well, see, but if you allow time for things that don't necessarily want to go to plan, at least then you've got the time to deal with it. So, good
Exactly.
morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dark Roast. I'm Dawna Stroll, and I'm here with the beautiful and talented Rose Short. And today we are going to be talking about time mastery, especially as it pertains to solopreneurs, because you're all on your own, right? And the goal is to get more done without killing yourself. We don't want you burning out. So, having some time management skills is definitely a bonus.
Yes, you don't need to be Doctor Strange to get things done.
Oh man, I'd love that.
I just want that cape.
Well, that too, mind you, I don't really want to be slapped by my clothing. So,
That's fair. I don't know. I've worn enough spikes and accidentally spiked myself, and I think I know what it feels like.
I wore high heels for like a million years, and so that's my own version.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, I look like a newborn gazelle in high heels. I just don't understand the mechanism behind them.
You do the baby horse walk.
Very much so. Oh God, I'm gonna die. That's why I wear combat boots.
Your feet are probably happier for it.
Fair enough, yeah. Anyways, shall we actually tackle the topic on hand?
Yes. So today it's gonna be some really good tips and strategies on different types of time management, different strategies that you can use, and also just some things that you might want to try to incorporate into your business just to help you not be so stressed out.
Yes. So we're
So
gonna start with the Eisenhower matrix. Love this. So I tell people about this all the time. I just didn't know what it was actually called, but urgent versus important, right? So, or the way I say it is imperative versus important. They're not necessarily the same thing. It's super important that you prioritize those, but do those tasks first, right? Urgent and important tasks. So imperative and important. They can be together, but they're not always the same. Next, you want to do your important but not necessarily urgent or imperative tasks. So you can schedule those tasks out, do some strategic planning, some course development, stuff like that. And then imperative but not important, delegate if possible. So this can be social media posting, this can be writing your emails. AI has become very handy with writing emails, just throwing that out there, right? Like I fail at connecting on a human level, but weirdly AI does it well for me. So absolutely use it. And then of course you have your stuff that isn't urgent and is not important, but it's still part of the process. So try to eliminate or defer those, such as low value tasks, unnecessary meetings, things like that. Or maybe it's software that you don't need. This can be subscriptions as well that you're spending money on that you don't necessarily need. Figure out if it's actually helping your business. And if it's not, just eliminate it.
yeah, and I mean, some of those tasks, like I'll get to it next week, I'll get to it next week, and then they sit there and eat at the back of your brain. So schedule some time for it. If it's something that needs to be done, but it's not a massive priority, just put it on your list and just get it done. But don't, the more you put it off, the bigger it might become. And eventually it might turn into an urgent task. So while you're doing triage, right? So you're gonna do the most important stuff, the most urgent stuff first. That doesn't mean that the less urgent stuff doesn't need to be done. It just means that you need to just factor a little bit of time in for that. And maybe you break it up into several days. If it's really not super urgent, just break it up over several days. So you do a little bit here and a little bit there, so on and so forth.
That's
And
really going to keep you from feeling overwhelmed.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of times when we start doing stuff, everything feels important and everything feels urgent and it's all got to be done now. And it's a good way to end up not doing anything. You get task paralysis because everything feels so important or so overwhelming that you just end up doing nothing. And next thing you know, you've binge watched 8 episodes of something because you didn't want to deal with it anymore. The next way that you can do things to make it a little bit easier for yourself is to batch tasks that are similar together. So if it's all part of one process or they're similar things, so you got to use the same program for it. Say video editing, right? You're creating content. Maybe you do it all, you film all things at once. So it might be content for the week. So you're doing all your filming at once. And then that way that's all taken care of. And then your next batch would be to edit it all, right? Or whatever, however that's going to work. I'm just using content as an option there, right? So email management, you can set your specific times to handle your emails or your messages. You use DMs specifically. Set a time to do it all at once so that you're not bouncing between 15 different programs trying to handle everything. If everything's got to be in one space, just do all that stuff in one space. And then the last is, of course, your admin work. And that's tedious. No one likes it. It's boring. Well, no, I shouldn't say no one likes it. I'm of the no one. That's where you're invoicing and your bookkeeping and all that kind of tedious tasks that need to be done in order to run your business properly. Set some time aside for those, but do them all at once, because if you're going to be bored, you might as well get all the boredom out.
For sure. You want to be bored for a small amount of time, not throughout the day.
Yeah. You don't want to have to break up all your fun with, oh man, now I got to send invoices. Nah.
Great. And then what we've talked about a lot before anyways, time blocking. So define your work hours, right? There's a reason that you're given a schedule in a job. And that's because those are the hours that job expects you to dedicate to whatever it is that your job is. You need to do the same thing when you're working for yourself. So easy to be like, well, I'm always working or anything like that. But when you're always working, it becomes easier and easier to check out. So really set aside specific hours for work and specific hours for personal. This is going to help you avoid burnout. This is where I struggled a lot. I was just constantly like, I've got work to do. I've got work to do. I've got work to do. And then next thing I knew, it was I'd had a month of not prioritizing going out for a bike ride or not going out to walk the dogs because I always had work to do. So time blocking is super important, and defining the work hours is super important.
Absolutely.
And then allocate those time blocks, right? So, okay, I want to focus on my business from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. because that's all I need. Cool. So from 7 to 8, maybe you're doing content creation. 8 to 9, you're doing editing or social media. 9 to 10, maybe you're following up with emails or writing a new sequence or something like that. And then 10 to 11, maybe you're working on funnels or ads or something like that. But that's a great way to make sure that you're getting the work done in the parameters you've set aside for work hours.
Yeah, and that's really important too, because it's easy to get waylaid, right? You get so involved in one thing that you sort of push off all that other stuff. If you set your time blocks, you might be able to add an extra 15 minutes, but don't forget that you're still going to have to do those things. I have very specific times. My morning start time is not as specific, but my end time is very specific because my husband works really crazy hours. And so if I want to see him, I got to stop my work day when he's coming home so that I can actually spend time with him. In the morning, I can get up at any time because no one wants to be awake in the morning, and he's already out the door by 3:00. So it's, for me, I can get up earlier and do it, even though I'm not a morning person. But so that's my specific hours, but I can easily get, I'm going to just do this one, I'm going to do this. And then the next thing I know, I've gone down the rabbit hole and the day is 1:30. I'm like, wait, what?
I totally understand. Which brings us to the last part of time blocking, which is sticking to the schedule, right? And that can be hard, especially if you have kids at home or animals or something like that. So avoid distractions during these blocks. You can use tools like timers to stay on track. Turn your phone off or silent, or even put it in a drawer for those times. Separate your business and your work computer or your business and your personal computer if you can. This was a big one for me. That way, Hearthstone, YouTube, all that, even Facebook to an extent, is on my personal, and my work computer is just my funnel builders, my CRM, my YouTube. That is the one that I post videos to, not the one that I watch stuff on. So there is some overlap, but make it very clear and defined that this is my work computer. I don't watch YouTube on my work computer if it's not work related or something like that. Like really, if you not everyone can, I understand the space can be limited, but really separate those places.
My phone is generally for all my personal entertainment. So I will do a little bit of work stuff on it, but generally if I'm going to be scrolling or just playing my games, it's basically my phone and my computer. All the tabs that are up are all related to business. Very rarely am I off doing scrolling on my computer because it's not as easy to just sit there.
Right.
So the next one we have is SMART goals, and we did talk about this. We'll put up the link to our SMART goals episode later. We did do specifically on this, and what it comes down to is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. It helps you to break big projects down into smaller actionable tasks to make it easier for you to do it. Because if you're looking at the whole pie, you're like, I can't eat that. But if you start cutting it up, you'll figure it out, right? And then you have your daily and your weekly goals. So each day you're going to have your own time blocks, but also set some goals for your week. What did you plan out for your week? And then that will help you sort of break down what needs to be done and also prioritize. So
for sure. This one's a big one because I think a lot of people think they're really good at this, but genetically speaking, humans are not good at this at all. And that is limit multitasking. So I don't care how you identify as far as how your brain works. Humans in general do not multitask well. So focus on one task at a time. And I'm bad at this, where I will be focusing on 30 things, so I'm not really focusing on anything. Multitasking has been proven to decrease productivity instead of increasing it, like I think. Instead, give your full attention to the one task before moving on to the next, because this is going to allow you to actually get it done faster because you're putting all of your focus in it. And then you can use the Pomodoro technique, I believe it's called. So work for 25 minutes on one task and then take a 5-minute break and then repeat, right? And that's where your timers can come in handy as well. And that's where lists or sticky notes or schedules or a day plan or whatever it is can come in handy too, because then you're not getting sidetracked. You can be like, okay, it is 7:14. I am podcasting with Dawna, and that is all I'm doing. I don't care that my email says I have 5 unread. This is what I'm doing.
Yep. And when you're the multitasking thing, a good way to know this is like when you're trying to take in, maybe you're doing some listening to do some learning, and then you're also trying to do something else at the same time, or you're reading and you're also listening to something else, because we all do stuff like that, right? How many times did you have to go back and re-listen or reread a certain thing because you missed something? And it's not like you missed a whole swath, but maybe you just missed one tiny little piece, right? And it's because your focus is split. And yes, you can do more than one thing at one time. Absolutely. There are parents around the world that do this all the time, right? You're constantly doing 5, 6, 7 things at a time, but that doesn't mean that you're doing them efficiently. And I think that just because we've gotten into the habit of trying to stuff as much as we can into a short period of time doesn't mean that we're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always that person who's like, I multitask just fine. It's like, do you though?
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times we don't realize that when we're multitasking, yes, we're doing multiple things at once, but we're focus here, focus there, focus here, focus there. So we're not actually splitting our focus in the sense that we're actually focusing on both things at the same time. We're just like an on-off switch. We're like that kid with the light switch that just keeps flicking it off and on. That is our brain trying to handle all the things that we're shoving at it.
Like the cartoons where they fire a bullet and it's just ricocheting all over the room.
It's basically your brain trying to handle everything at once. So the next one is to automate. Now, this is where you can schedule your social media, right? So you plan out your content, you've done your tasks earlier, you've time blocked, you've created your content for the week. Now you can use things for automation like scheduling it out so that you've got it all planned out. You do this a lot with YouTube. right?
Yep.
And you use repurpose to help pop it everywhere else. There's lots of different programs that you can do that with. Metricool, Buffer, Hootsuite. I know that Facebook has some options with it. I'm pretty sure that almost every social media has some sort of option with it. But places like Hootsuite or Buffer or Metricool or Repurpose allows you to do it in one space instead of having to do it singularly in every space. And this is another way where you are helping your time management by not having to do it every single space, is by picking a tool that will allow you to do that. Email sequences, again, set them up. And so you might have to spend a day actually setting them up. You've written them, so now you're going to schedule them out. And if you're going to use something like System.io or Go High Level, and pretty much any email autoresponder or email process, you can set delays in, right? All it does is they come in with a tag. So they're going to get this email sequence. And then it's like, send this one on day 1, send this one on day 3, send this one on day 5, or however you want to break it down. But once that starts, then you can just let it go. You don't have to spend all your time and stress trying to figure it out. And then there's project management tools. There's Trello, there's Asana, there's HubSpot, which is also can help you do that. Anything that's going to help you keep track of what you're doing. If you've got a team, maybe you've got a couple of helpers, maybe you've got a VA or something like that. It'll help you keep track of what they're doing as well without constantly, well, what have you done today? Where are you at today? Give me the notes today. It'll all be listed for you, and that'll allow you to help keep track of that. I know Notion also and Canva, both of them sell planners and trackers and things like that you can use that are fairly simple to work with.
Yeah. And then learn to say no. This one, I think a lot of us still struggle with.
Yeah.
But it is super important to protect your time, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, you probably got into entrepreneurship for 2 reasons: to help people and to take your time back because you're tired of trading your time for a paycheck. And so we kind of assume that because of that, we can't ever say no. But it's really important that you protect your time. Now, you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be mean or anything like that. But politely finding opportunities that don't align with either your goals or your schedule or just overall what you're doing is completely fine. And then also evaluate requests, right? So before you agree to something, like maybe something sounds really, really exciting and new because the person talking to you about it is super excited about it and you're catching their energy. I always like to tell entrepreneurs sleep on it, because what sounds fantastic today may not sound fantastic tomorrow once you've had a chance to get out of the energy brain and into logical brain. So just really evaluate it, make sure it actually aligns with, and that can be collaborations, that can be podcasts, podcast guesting. There's a lot of different things that could be. So just make sure you're evaluating those.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you'll get a lot of requests. If you start doing podcasts, you'll get people who, hey, can I be on your show? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because you also want to go on somebody else's, but maybe it's just not the right fit or not the right time. Or maybe somebody's asking you to be on theirs. And again, maybe it's just not the right time for you, right? Your time matters. I think that we forget a lot that our time matters. Your time actually is money. Your time has value. And so really learn to integrate that thought into your mind and into your business, that your time has value. I know that as a designer, a lot of times we focus on the finished product and not necessarily on the time that it took us to get there. And people do that all the time. Also, people who are buyers. So like an Etsy person who's created this beautiful crocheted or knitted project or some artistic piece that they've built. And it's like, oh, why is that so expensive? Because my time has value. That's why. And it doesn't just go for art, it goes for everything. If it took you 5 hours to do some research, that's time, that's money, right? So don't forget that that's part of your process. And then you want to make sure that you regularly review and adjust what you're doing. Take a look at the end of the week. What worked? What didn't? Maybe time blocking didn't work for you. So adjust your plan, find a different way to do things. Or maybe that really worked for you. So now you can incorporate it more into your system. Then again, do it the same thing at the end of the month, right? Look at your bigger goals. How are you doing? Are you getting where you want to go? Is there some areas that you need to tweak or focus on more? Are there some things that you can just sort of say, you know what, that really isn't helping me progress, and getting rid of it?
Oh, it's always good to trim the fat when it comes to being an entrepreneur because it's so easy to like get shiny object syndrome and add this, and this. And then you really have to reevaluate and be like, okay, that's really not helping me. I really don't need this. Let me go ahead and stop. And that just keeps you from being overwhelmed down the road.
Oh, yeah. And that goes for whether you have a physical store or a digital store, or you're a coach, or whatever it is that you're doing, because we can always get caught up in, oh, we need to have this, and we need to have, oh, they have this, and we have. Take a breath, slow down. First of all, evaluate where you're at. And yes, where you want to go. Maybe you will add those things in later, but maybe you don't need them right now. Looking at where you're at right now and building out from there, one step at a time versus trying to jump to the end, is going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of hassle.
This is where outsourcing can come in handy, right? So we've talked about it before, like Fiverr, Upwork. I think there's a new one out that I can't remember the name of. If the budget allows, absolutely outsource the stuff that you don't necessarily know how to do or don't want to do. If you don't have the budget, maybe see if someone will do it for a testimonial or something like that. Because oftentimes a lot of the new content creators or the graphic designers and whatnot will help you out in exchange for testimonials. So outsource wherever you can to pull that time back, and then focus on your high value tasks. So again, this goes back to that matrix we were talking about, imperative versus important. Focus on the stuff that's imperative and important. And then from there, the stuff that is important. So making sure that you're taking care of those top ones, the littler tasks can fall in later, but concentrate on the tasks that really require you to fully focus and have your energy behind them is where not to outsource or what to outsource.
And also what you're comfortable with outsourcing too, right? Because maybe this in the beginning, you're not going to be comfortable letting somebody else write your email, right? Maybe you're not saying what I want you to say, or I don't trust that. And I mean, that comes with time, right? That comes with finding the trust. And also places, you can also look at Facebook or Instagram, or you can just put a call out, because maybe there are some people who are new, right, and are building their business, who will do it for a little bit less, maybe not necessarily just a testimonial, but maybe they'll do it within a budget, or they'll work on a budget with you. Something that, because they want the work, they want the experience. And just because someone's new doesn't necessarily mean that they're not capable or qualified. We all get into this business as babies. We all get onto the online marketing as babies. We are new. That doesn't mean that people shouldn't listen to us, or that we can't help someone because we have experience or training. It just means that we're new to this space. We're new to taking it and turning it into a business. So when someone's a new, say, a social media marketer, right? They're a manager and they're brand new. That doesn't mean that they haven't done a lot of those things previously and have the skills to help you. Just do your due diligence, just do your research, ask the questions, and maybe you can find somebody who's a designer or a media manager or something like that, who's willing to work with you for much less than maybe you can find for somebody who's more established.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this is mine. Prioritize self-care. I used to work, I would get up and go to work at 6 in the morning. And then I'd go to work at one job, and then I'd leave that job and I'd go to another job, and I'd work that job until 11 o'clock at night. And then I would go home, and that's what I did. And that was my cycle of life. Then I got laid off from one job, and then I got laid off at the other job, like bang, bang. And all of a sudden, here I am, a 20-year-old who all of a sudden had no job. And I've been in the city for a year and a half in Vancouver, and I knew nothing. I knew how to get to work is what I did. I knew where work was, and I knew how to get home, but I had no social life. I had no anything else. So I literally spent a month on the beach sleeping, because I was like one street up from the beach. So I just go out down there in the morning and go to sleep. And that was my life. And that's how I did it, right? My mom worked always 4 jobs. I could always tell how my mom's life was going by how many jobs she had. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, let's just add another job. And then when I hit about 40, 45, I was like, fuck this shit. I hate it. And so I will say that for all my young ladies out there, you're going to reach a point probably in your mid 40s. Maybe you're just going to be like, nope, I'm done. But don't wait that long to prioritize your self-care, right? You are going to need to take time for you. And that whole I'm working all the time thing, even if it's just on your business and you're working all the time, you're going to burn yourself out. You need to stop and take time to take care of you, because if you're not well, then you can't provide for your business, you can't provide for your family or whatever it is that you're trying to take care of. You can't build anything if you're constantly running on empty. It's just not going to happen, right? So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, both mentally and physically, and that's important.
Yeah, it's funny. My self-care routine actually became a way for me to help other people, and monetized it basically, because by challenging myself with the ice baths and like doing different times of variations and whatnot, like that's what was the trigger of like, oh, you know what? Different times a day matter. What I ate matters. And so then I started tracking it, and then I said, oh, if I'm just discovering this and nobody I've heard in the space is talking about it, maybe nobody's talking about it because they haven't figured it out, right? So then we started talking about it. It kind of evolved on its own. Now, like, one of my businesses is also my self-care routine. But it's because I really want to help people break out of the noise of only focusing on what one or two experts say and really listening to their own body and then figuring it out for themselves, instead of just like, oh, well, Joe Rogan does this, so that's what I'm going to do too. Like, it's just a terrible way to approach it. So sometimes your self-care becomes your passion and what helps you help others. So I used to laugh about work-life balance and self-care and everything like that. And then after getting out of the corporate brainwashing, I was like, oh no, it makes sense. I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I think, let's say I was around 45 and I had just been pouring myself into work, and I do my work during my day job. And then I go home and I do my publishing and I do all that. And then my brain is always wanting to add things, because my brain is a hoarder. Like, I'm not physically a hoarder, but my brain hoards ideas and concepts and things, and it wants to learn more and grow more and do more. And I had to finally say, no, we don't have the energy. And I literally burnt straight out. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't think. I couldn't, even the things that I used to enjoy, like with my publishing, I couldn't do that anymore because everything felt so exhausting. And you're better off to take care of it now before it gets to that point in your life where you're so exhausted by just existing, requires all your energy. So if you take care of yourself before it gets to that point, you won't have to struggle so hard. And being passionate about something doesn't mean that it should own every ounce of your mental and physical energy and time.
And sometimes, you have a schedule change where you can start prioritizing that self-care, right? So I was getting up at 4:30 every morning because on Tuesdays and Thursdays I had a 0500 meeting that went from 0500 to 0600. Well, I'm done with those meetings, but I'm still getting up at 4:30 in the morning because now I can do some physical training from 0500 to 0600, right? Now I'm prioritizing exercise again because I really haven't been. I mean, with my post ice bath workouts, yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a workout in, but it's not cardio. So now I'm prioritizing cardio. I'm prioritizing my fitness a little bit better because of that schedule change. So if you can't really rearrange right now, and like you don't understand really how to prioritize the self-care, like look at the days where you're up but not necessarily doing anything of value, and see if you can start prioritizing the self-care in that way. And that can be meditating for 10 minutes. That can be making sure you're drinking water. That can be getting a really hot shower if that's what you enjoy. Or in my case, a really cold shower. Although I don't cold shower. I hate cold showers, but I do the ice bath.
No, I understand that. Like, I get up. I'm not really necessarily a morning person, but since I have to be up early anyways, especially now that school's back in, so I'm getting the kids up by 6. So it's nothing for me to get up at like, even 5:45, 6, or once they leave and taking that 15 minutes. And I've started doing daily meditation. And I didn't really understand what meditation was prior to actually spending a little time down the rabbit hole, because I always thought it was like, oh, but no, it's not that, right? It's literally just getting your mind to focus in a way that's a little bit abstract and gets all the clutter out. And it's been massively beneficial for me in the way that I'm receiving things. That there are things like if I don't want to receive it, I don't have to anymore. Whereas prior to, it came in and it just came in. I put up my armor and I'm like, no, but that wasn't actually helpful so now I feel more like the Matrix now. Just stop the bullies. I'm not even interested. You don't bother me anymore.
Nice.
So, and that's been also giving me an opportunity to where I'm literally in my brain, I'm just like, I'm taking care of myself in one little way. It's just one little way, but it's certainly helpful.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be the whole grand, oh, I schedule the entire day and I go get a mani-pedi and then I get a salt stone massage and then I get a facial. Sure, those things would be nice if that's your jam. It doesn't have to be that extravagant. It doesn't have to look like that. It can be very simple and it can fit into your schedule very easily.
Sometimes self-care is simply just taking a shower.
Yeah.
You do the everything shower, which as women we hate, but
time consuming.
Yeah, but maybe that's your self-care. It's once a week you just do that whole everything shower, just so that, you know what, I'm just gonna, and not turn it into why is this taking all my time, but I'm actually dedicating this to me.
So that's pretty much it, guys. Your matrix. Figure out what's imperative, what's important, and prioritize accordingly. Batch. We love batching. Batching is so much easier. Set your time blocks. Automate. Review and adjust. Make sure you've got those goals set.
And you don't forget to outsource when you can, right? And don't forget that self-care. So that is pretty much it for us today. If you like this, please subscribe to us. Drop a comment, let us know. If you have any questions, as always, you can ask them here or you can reach out to us personally. And what do you want to talk about next week, my dear?
Let's talk about building a community.
Okay.
I think that's a really important piece that people haven't necessarily tapped into.
Yep. So that sounds like an excellent plan. So next week's podcast will be on building a community. There you go. So that's
around your brand or your offer.
Yes, of course. Well, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us. And we love you. Happy Friday.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.